It's really great to see you here. So you can see on my photo me without the mask, as I look like. And first of all, I'll share a little story. As yesterday I was walking down the street, I saw a taxi with a sign, "Stand with Ukraine." So apparently it's different part of the world for you here, but it was so relieving to see that kind of sign here in Korea. So I really want to thank you for your support in this mission, the global mission to stop the war. So thank you, I appreciate that. Now a couple of words about the part of the world where I come from. So it's the Baltic states. I know many of you probably have heard that term, that name, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Baltic states. So see, here you can see a map, how we are located a little bit north of Europe. And Lithuania happened to be, along with the other Baltic states, one of the top startup and innovation destination in Europe. On the left-hand side, you can see the map, the heat map, the tech innovation, the startup heat map of Europe. And apparently you can see the Lithuania being among the top heated areas on the map. FinTech has been something that Lithuania has been specializing in quite several years. And here are some numbers that display how Lithuania stands in the FinTech innovation map. We are number 4 globally on the FinTech innovation rank. And Vilnius specifically, which is the capital of Lithuania, happened to be ranked number 1 by foreign direct investment into startups. So we're pretty proud of those numbers. Basically, that displays that Lithuania, along with the other Baltic states, is really among the top leaders in innovation. Now a little bit half philosophical, half commercial story about where the front end of Lithuanian FinTech thinking is. Because apparently we're talking a lot recently about how FinTech needs to be changed. So first, a couple of slides. I would say slightly worrying slides. At least as a citizen, as a global citizen, I really think that there is something that needs to be fundamentally changed about the FinTech and finance system globally. On the left-hand side, you see 2 curves that represent the return on both capital and the labor in the last almost 100 years. And you will notice that until 1972, well, probably some of you know, where the global currency US dollar has been delinked from gold. Basically what happened is capital started to gain a lot. But labor, weighted by inflation, basically remained flat. So basically it means that all the innovation that's happening in the world, it basically earns governments and earns the capital side. And the labor side really receives very little. Now on the right-hand side, you will see a statistical chart that represents how typically governments deal with problems by printing more money. So I purposefully put a European money supply and American money supply, and you can clearly see what typically happens in the money supply side when a crisis arrives, such as COVID. Europeans start to print money twice as fast as before, and the Americans apparently print a ton of new money, and the pace of printing money goes fast. Result, yes, super short term, you fix some of the problems. Medium term, you see a hyperinflation happening both in Europe and the United States, and if you really look at the markets, we're really crazy today because of the inflation in the United States. So this is how typically traditional finance system deals with the economy. What could be the solution? So these are the different pieces of a new financial system that could be built. It's not built there yet, but as a technologist, I can say that every single one of pieces that are presented here on this chart are technically working, are available. There are companies, there are startups doing something like that. So if you cumulatively put all the pieces together, you could actually derive a totally new finance system. It's maybe 20, maybe 50 years from now, but apparently this is the direction that could be taken by the FinTech industry to really introduce a very new, fundamentally new finance system. Vis-a-vis pieces, I will go slightly a little bit more into detail in each, but for now, we'll just highlight them. So vis-a-vis principles, first is decentralization. Everything is decentralized as opposed to concentrated. Second is a web, what they call 3.0 infrastructure. It replaces Web 2.0 infrastructure that we see today everywhere from apps to mobile internet, and which is far more advanced in many ways. These are dApps, so the new generation of applications and services, which is built on the Web 3.0 infrastructure and provides fundamentally new ways of interacting with technology. Tokenization, apparently something that you definitely see here in this part of the world. So it's becoming a new interface to a lot of services, including finance services. DAO, abbreviation probably known to many of you already, which stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. It's a new way to replace the traditional corporation. And as a result, something currently maybe as a utopian vision, but there's been a lot of technical thought, social thought, philosophical put into that, is looking at the government as a service. So the theory is you could split all the government services, identity, social insurance, infrastructure, finance system, et cetera, into pieces and build them technically in a new way so you could actually run a government as a service. A little bit more details. Decentralization. Apparently, it comprised of quite a few elements. First, it's distributed. It's like a hologram. It's everywhere, and it's nowhere at any single time. It makes way more scalable, way more secure, way more private. Encrypted. So everything is decentralized. So every single node has a piece of information on everything, but it's encrypted. So to date, to now, it's been 100% technically defended. So privacy, which currently we're speaking a lot of, comes first. Algorithmic trust means that everything is encoded in the code. So the programs, the systems, the platform, the interaction is happening in a predefined way, and nobody at will or whatever cannot change that. It's unconditional. So every single transaction happening regardless of what else is happening in the world, or the geopolitics, of any other stuff. This is altogether is decentralization. Web 3.0 infrastructure. We've heard quite a few opinions, at least our part of the world, that Web 2.0, albeit advanced, in many ways way more advanced than Web 1.0, but it's spoiled. Because basically, on the one hand, you see corporations like Apple, Google, Facebook, et cetera, closing and tightening the space. On the other hand, apparently the government starts to regulate a lot of things. Many services, many protocols, many websites, many apps are just not available, closed, shut down because of whatever reason. So Web 3.0 is there to potentially fix those issues. All the transactions are built on smart contracts and trustless protocols. All the information is stored is in what they call distributed ledger. It's continuous record of everything. The storage is decentralized and could be accessed everywhere from any part of the world. And apparently discovery itself is also decentralized and the indexes run on the blockchain. I'm not going into specifics of or details of each of those pieces. So my mission here in 20 minutes to give you a little bit more of map and the right keywords so you can research more. But apparently behind each keyword, you can find a whole world of technical solutions, of startups, of really promising things. Tokenization. So currently it's becoming the user interface of the new services, of the new financial services. Definitely it's built on very open standards, so smart contracts based standards. It's extremely secure because it's built on the privacy and encryption principles that the blockchains have been built on. The wallets that are being extended into tab browsers are becoming the way for consumer to interface with the services. And exchanges, apparently, a very typical way for consumers to run swapping all the tokens and exchange tokens and otherwise deal with liquidity of the tokens. So these are the standards that emerge as a way for consumer to consume those new services. dApps, that's my personal favorite. My background does include building a mobile early app ecosystem, so I'm familiar with that space a lot. And dApps basically is a new generation. Think of .coms, think of mobile apps, but just built on Web 3.0 platforms. Apparently, it uses the standard web standards, so you don't need to learn new technologies, new programming languages to deal with that. So standard HTML, CSS, JavaScript, etc. are used there. It's put on the blockchain, so it's decentralized as well as anything else. It's built on peer-to-peer protocols, and it's built on the blockchain. It has a built-in economics, so you can pay for transactions, you can pay for services, you can do automatic transactions. A light bulb could pay for its own electricity in this new paradigm. It's built in the protocol, it's unconditional, something that early mobile ecosystem was heavily missing. I don't know if you do recall the early mobile days. The applications and services were there, but solving payments took forever, maybe 10 years. And apparently it's extremely private and secure, so something that the consumers currently nowadays are more and more concerned. You know of all this GDPR, etc. Initiatives by European countries. So there's a lot of movement into making the technology safe, secure, private. And Web 3.0 comes with privacy first, because apparently everything is secure, everything is private, everything is encrypted. DAO. So this is the new paradigm of equivalent of corporations. So what blockchain and crypto community discovered like really, really fast is that even the organizational structure, I mean the company structure, the standard limited structure, the standard corporate structure, in many ways is incompatible with the regulations, with the world out there because of the gray regulatory areas, etc. So it came up with a solution called DAO, or Decentralized Autonomous Organization. It's built on a couple of principles, several principles in fact. One is it's a community-driven as opposed to centralized governments. So if you look at the classical corporation like Google or Apple or Amazon, apparently it's extremely vertical and it's extremely driven by this hierarchical chart, and apparently it's extremely tied into the regulatory framework of where it operates. So decentralized is very opposite of that. It's a community-driven. All the decision is recorded and transferred on standard protocols, and apparently it's very decentralized. So a community of thousands of millions community members could shape what DAO could look like. It's very autonomous. So if you think, one thing I do find remarkable about the whole Bitcoin network is that it flawlessly operates without a single human. So if you think of that, take a look at the traditional finances, where the finance system has to hire thousands and thousands of individuals to work on supporting the finance, and the blockchain, which just operates. Nobody really works there. You cannot find a CEO or CMO, etc. of a blockchain. It just works. So this new organization is really compatible with a completely autonomous world. What's remarkable, typically the purpose of your organization is not necessarily the profit. So it's a purpose-driven. It's executing on human values as opposed to profit-taking. So the future could see organization for protected human rights, for supporting the ecosystem, for supporting animal rights, etc., etc. Whatever purpose you encode into the organization, it could be there, it could be executed automatically, because the economics are built in and just follow the specific value, the specific purpose. So it's mission-driven as opposed to profit-driven. And apparently it's extremely global. It doesn't have borders, it doesn't have languages, it doesn't have races, it doesn't have anything. So it just operates there globally and executes what the community really encoded in that organization. And the final slide, so this is something at the extremely far end of the, say, local community thinking, is saying, hey, if we have all that technology, if we really could replace a lot of individual pieces in the government, like finances, like infrastructure, like social security, like social identity, etc., with alternative services, then maybe we could actually replace a lot of government. So the concepts like we government, like extended e-government, like self-government have emerged. And actually, you can see a lot of things that have been already achieved in the Baltics. Many of you maybe have heard of the Estonian initiative of e-government and e-citizen. Estonia promised 100 million Estonians, electronic Estonians in next decade. Whereas now Estonia is only 1 million people. Because we are thinking, hey, like the local territory, the local language, and the local passport are not necessary just to use those services. So you could build everything on an open platform. So the principles are the following. First, government is built on an open platform, as opposed to the traditional government framework. Second important concept is code is law. Law is code. So every regulation, every rule, every protocol, every procedure, every requirement, every demand, every measurement is done programmatically. And everybody can see open source the code, so you can clearly know, you do that, this is how the code responds, equal to every single one participant in the whole ecosystem. Code is law, predictable and unconditional. Open data, something which is extremely interesting concept, at least it's being exploited in Europe a lot, means currently a government generates a lot of data, traffic data, health data, social data, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now when we're saying that data is the most valuable resource currently in our time, and the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, they say, is only as good as the amount and the quality of data you put in. That's not a secret. I mean, you can build whatever complex model, but if a model is missing fundamental data, it couldn't be possibly built to reliably predict the future. So data is collected and paid for apparently by everybody's money. So why does it remain closed and protected somewhere? So open data is one of the principles, means that the code which executes all the protocol and transactions could use and leverage all the data which is accumulated and collected. It's transparent, it's secure, it's available to everybody. Again, as long as it doesn't violate the privacy and other human principles, it could be used for building the infrastructure, for building the whole platform. And there is one concept that at least Estonia is trying like really hard recently. Lithuania has joined that effort, is why don't we export government services traditionally rendered by governments globally? So both, best of my knowledge, Lithuania and Estonia have introduced e-residency concepts. Means any part of the world, any citizen everywhere could just apply for e-residency and apply an identity card. Currently, there is a specific set of services that is attached to that identity. So, of course, you cannot use every single one government service, but it's enough to open a company. It's enough in many cases to open a bank account, to build a business, to hire people, to pay taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So gradually, countries like Estonia, like Lithuania, are basically introducing global government platforms, pieces by pieces, little by little, and hopefully that leads to a world where actually governments could maybe compete on who is providing the best infrastructure, the best service, the best possible opportunity for anybody on the planet. So these are a couple of startups. I just selected some of the startups in the relevant space and just super high level, just to illustrate and say how the specific companies, the specific startups, just like the ones you can see here, actually are building specific projects and specific services in Lithuania. Dapreg is an interesting startup that basically replaces the standard DNS with a blockchain-based .dap extension. So everybody's familiar with the .com model, where you build a site, register the site, and the consumer handle that you have to interact with the consumer is the .com. Now, there are a couple of fundamental problems with the .com, and the whole DNS model apparently is centralized, is dependent on governments. We've known many cases where actually governments just decide to block specific parts of the world, etc. So alternative is the .dap, is that you both run, discover, interact, etc. With any application. It could reside anywhere, but as a consumer, you interact using a simple .dap extension, so game.dap or something.dap. And then it's not centralized. It's not regionally tied to any specific cloud or server, etc. It's not controlled by any government. Dapscape is a dap browser. Just like Netscape in early web days was the way and the container for consumers to interact with the new internet back then. So Dapscape is a specific browser which is both linked into blockchain, into traditional web, which basically allows both a developer build, deploy, develop applications in a completely decentralized way and give them to a consumer, and then for a consumer to consume dApps as easily as you consume .coms or any of our domain names. DApp Radar. So I'm quite proud, that the world's currently biggest dApp store is in Lithuania, actually in Kaunas, which is the city I was born in. It's 100 kilometers where I currently live. So believe it or not, but a tiny, small Lithuania, 3 million people, currently has the world's biggest dApp store, where thousands and thousands of dApps already exist. As a consumer, can discover them, interact with them, or use them. So this is a super quick run. Again, I hoped not to explain every single detail technically. My hope was just to give you a map and a concept of what's happening. And you can definitely Google and research yourself all the individual pieces. And again, I'm very proud that all of that is actually happening in Lithuania. So thank you for your attention. As I understand, we have
thank you very
time
much.
for a couple of questions.
Thank you very much for your good presentation. Yeah, so we have the questions to you. That question it is there any cases like blockchain technology combines such as to bank or the finance sector in Lithuania? Could you please share it if it is?
Well, yes, of course. Well, first of all, there is a global concept, which I did not name here, called DeFi. Many of you have heard the term. It's called decentralized finances. Means you can replace a lot of services that are traditionally reserved for banking sector, for the blockchain. So yeah, we have players like Bankera, which did one of the most successful ICOs. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And we have actually a lot of blockchain and startup companies having a domicile in Lithuania, like blockchain.com and some other big players that actually looking for interaction with the government to set up their businesses there. So yes, we do have definitely quite a few, both payments and banking and more broad finance, blockchain-based services in Lithuania.
Thank you very much for sharing your experiences and the cases. 혹시 질문을 미처 하지 못하신 분 계시면은요, 손을 들어주시면은 질문을 하도록 하겠습니다. 네, 저 마이크 좀 전달 부탁드리겠습니다.
It looks like the Baltic countries are relatively young, and the concepts that you have laid out is something that seems like that could be possible in a very mature, democracy, very, where there is a very credible and trusted government. Why do you think, the Baltic countries have been able to achieve it, whereas, in comparison to like countries like Belarus or Kazakhstan or somewhere like those places? I think, yeah.
Okay, so first, thank you, great question. Second is neither Belarus nor Kazakhstan, I definitely see it as an example of great democracy. They are slightly larger in size, but definitely not what I call democratic countries. Third, and this is the essence, this is a thesis, if you take. Larger, democratic or not democratic countries typically are way slower in adopting fundamentally new technologies, especially in sectors like financial. Because it's like a patient operating himself on a brain surgery. I can barely imagine that, for example, the United States that prints money for the world, my personal opinion, does okay-ish, but definitely not the best work there. And you've seen in the slides how it typically deals with rates, with money supply, etc. So in countries like that, it takes decades for fundamental things like financial system to change. So the regulators are super slow. The countries are super slow to change. Now, the worst problem is apparently those of the countries that typically provide a backbone for the current financial system are least possibly interested in changing the system. Why would America want to change dollar as a global currency? Why in the world? So what's happening in countries like Lithuania? On the one hand, we are extremely stable because we are part of the European Union. So the European Union regulates a lot of aspects. But we're small enough to actually, on the government level, to be fast and to be flexible. So if you look at the pace of the adoption pace, how the regulators and the Central Bank of Lithuania are changing things, I would say it's years and years faster. It's years and years simpler than in large countries. So that gives me a little hope, not necessarily translates into something big, but a little hope that yes, this is one of the very few verticals where actually a small, flexible, advanced country has an edge against big and inflexible. That's my personal belief.
Well, thank you very much for your sharing your presentation and answering. So may I bring you down from the stage?
Sure.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much
Thank you.
once
Appreciate
again. 여러분 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.